When it comes to hospitality and family being together, I just had a family meal over the weekend, people gathering together and breaking food. I suppose it's part of the tradition there, and it's part of tradition within our church communities as well. Family and being together often goes with food, but when does that actually become part of the problem? When does generosity and hospitality be something which doesn't communicate love and care? Well, particularly if our friends and our family are struggling with health issues, which honestly the food isn't helping. Joining me on the program now is Dr. Terry Pouonu from Laidlaw College. Terry, kia ora, talofa, thank you for your time today.
Talofa Andrew, malolo soifua, malilangi mama. Thank you for the opportunity.
This is a sensitive topic, and Terry, I know for you it's personal as well. I mean, compared to the rest of the population, some terrible health outcomes for Pasifika community, and tragically that was the case for your family as well.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share some about my story. Both my parents passed away relatively young. My mum passed away at the age of 59 and my dad 63. My in-laws also passed away in their 60s. And it's all connected to the common illnesses that really impact our people. Heart disease, cardiovascular, cancer, and diabetes.
Yeah.
It impacts our people at various ages, but also friends who are actually being impacted are in their 40s, which is very concerning, and it's something that needs to be addressed by our communities.
It is tricky though, because that spirit of hospitality, of being together, of enjoying food together, that is so ingrained within a Pasifika way of being and celebrating. You're very difficult to challenge such fundamental parts of culture and tradition.
Yeah, I mean, there are body norm perceptions, and if you look across ethnic groups, these perceptions may foster a sense of discrimination.
Yeah.
But looking at it from an emic perception or perspective, from an insider's perspective, conviviality and hospitality is very important in our cultures. It's naturally part and parcel of who we are. We are reciprocal, we are community oriented,
Yeah.
and we have fun and enjoy it and coming together and feasting over big quantity of meals.
Yeah.
And these are celebrated at various rituals. If you're part of a church community, of course, you're going to be attending a wedding or a funeral, the opening of a church, the celebration of a birthday or anniversary. And when you celebrate these rituals or traditions, food is always part and parcel, a very important part of our community. And that's become quite problematic in New Zealand because we love the fact that we come together and enjoy the fellowship and community, but afterwards, the impact, the consequence of these celebrations has an impact on us individually. We go back to our families and we react based on medical complications that would arise.
Now you
So
mentioned
we, yeah,
Sorry, you
sorry.
mentioned the as part of the church culture as well as I suppose Pasifika culture and the combination of that. But actually, as church communities, and this is broader than any particular culture. This is, I think, true of all of our churches. Are we part of the problem here, Terry? That bring and share morning tea, which everybody just stuffs their face in their pockets, and all the kids are reaching for the chocolate biscuits and all that type of stuff. That's just kind of how we do church now. But is it necessarily a loving way to be caring for people in our congregation who may be struggling in their relationship with food?
Oh, good question. Good question to raise. I think, well, we have in the Samoan culture, if I could bring up a intracultural perspective of tautua
Yeah.
and service to God and service to one another, we always give sacrificially and always make sure that we do host as guests who come into our church, we make sure we give 100%.
Yeah.
And we bring shame to our community if we just give, very minimal amounts of food,
Yeah.
and it's not the best quality. When we're hosting people, we make sure that we host and we give 100%. That's our basically our relational aspect. We're service to God and service to community. So
Hmm.
these are the kind of like perceptions we need to take into account, that we're also um, don't want to bring shame to our community.
Yeah.
There's a great sense of pride in hospitality and hosting other groups to it or guests that come to our church.
And
So
I imagine that's very deep seated. That this goes back a long way to bring shame onto your family, or to be seen as inhospitable or not providing enough. These are quite deeply rooted within Pasifika psyche, but the outcomes are too bad. Is it challengeable in your opinion? Can particularly the church lead the way in perhaps a transformation of culture to lead to better health outcomes for our communities?
I firmly believe that we can go beyond this idea of churches being an obesogenic environment,
Yeah.
but we can be transforming or transformative communities by finding that balance between having just heavy food, but also having salads and giving us the option.
Yeah.
But also not only looking at food, but also as churches, as being communities that provide the options. For example, I attend Zumba,
Hmm.
not only outside of the church, but also a Zumba session classes that are run by St. Therese community
Yep.
in Catholic Church in Mangere.
Hmm.
I find that very, yeah, well, if you look at me, I'm actually quite small for an islander. I'm actually 90 kilograms for a Samoan, very skinny,
Yeah.
but very healthy. And these are the perceptions that we find ourselves challenging perceptions and tension because when I was lighter, when I was in Samoa for 4 years, I was around 80 Ks.
Mm.
And my colleagues in my class said, Terry, you look too skinny, you look sick.
Yeah.
But ironically, I was actually quite healthy because I didn't use my asthma inhaler. I only used it once in 4 years in
Wow.
Samoa. Came back to New Zealand and put on weight.
Mm.
And they actually said to me, Terry, you look a lot healthier. So maybe there are perceptions of being bigger, physically bigger,
Mm.
to a lot of our islanders. I think it's connected to our worldview
Yeah.
that being more physical, you're actually more capable of giving back to your community. So in the islands, you need physical strength in order to nurture a plantation, in order to cook food and climb a coconut tree. But
Yeah.
if you're too skinny, you said, oh, you're not. So those are kind of like those intercultural perceptions and emic perceptions that we need to take into account. So that's rather ironic that I'm quite skinny, but very healthy.
Yeah.
Probably the healthiest I've ever felt. But people look at me and say, oh, Terry, you look sick
Yeah.
because you're too skinny. So these are, yeah, some of the tensions that we face in church.
Certainly challenging, and look, it will. I mean, as you mentioned, this goes back a long way. It goes back culturally. It goes back within family traditions. There's the honor shame aspect of this, and maybe it's genetic as well. Although we don't have time to dig into the medical aspects of this. It may take time to change perceptions. It may take time to have a different idea of what healthy living looks like, although tragically it may mean the loss and grief associated with losing family members too young, or having friends and loved ones face serious health conditions before they needed to. It may take a bit of a wake-up call in this space to help all of us develop healthier eating patterns, perhaps.
Yeah, I think if I can tag on to what you just shared, I think churches are becoming reactive rather than proactive.
Yeah.
And I think there are many opportunities for us to be proactive in providing. There are churches who have kind of like programs where elders can go for a walk in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Zumba. We can encourage. I think it goes beyond physical well-being. We talk about health and well-being in Pacific communities. Also relates to the mental
Yeah.
and the spiritual as well, which looks at the total person. And I think in Tongan you took the tangata kakato, in Samoan we mentioned say or tangata atoa. So when one aspect of your physical is impacted, then also impacts your spiritual and your mental well-being. So it's really important that we are more proactive, and I believe that churches can do that.
Yeah.
But we need to actually sit down and review how we do mission and how we do church, because
Yeah.
we're really focused strong on evangelism.
Mm-hmm.
We're really strong on preaching the gospel, teaching the gospel in Sunday school at youth level. But in terms of putting that into practice, I think we need to come together and actually have those really important, robust conversations.
Yeah, no, difficult conversations to have, but such important ones, and perhaps challenging the way in which we do hospitality, the way in which we show love and care for each other, and yeah, certainly a challenging conversation, pun intended, some food for thought there, Terry, just as we come up to lunchtime. But hey, thank you for what you do at Laidlaw, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. Whawhatai mole awanoa.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.